Welcome to an exclusive video for Computer Fantasy Builds. I'm Joe, here with Zach, who's been gracious enough to host this for us. We have a computer build here. Rough build cost, I want to say, was around $400 to $500 range. So not a very high-end computer, but however, it is a very worthy for computer fantasy builds. The reason it's worthy is because the specs on here meets what should be the new standard. What should be the new standard minimum requirements for desktop computers in any kind of work environment. Say any call centers or anything dealing with massive amount of computers in any sort of office building. This computer is very responsive and can handle just about anything we'd want to throw at it, minus any kind of heavy application use or heavy gaming. But for everyday computing, this system is perfect.
AMD A10-7860K with R7 graphics. It's a quad core. Base clock is 3.6 gigahertz, but and it turbos up to 4, but we actually just set it at 4 gigahertz permanently right now. We are running 16 gigabytes G.SKILL, Ripjaws X, 1866 RAM, and it's got some pretty decent latencies in it. I think it was like 910, 924, 28. Okay. The system itself cost about $500. I had to throw in about almost an extra $50 today between some Arctic Silver thermal paste and the Frio, the Thermaltake Frio.
Silent 14.
Yeah, so that's the heat sink we had to throw in there because, but it turns out we think this is some speculation, and comment below what if you have any knowledge of this. But we think that the thermal readings from the BIOS, the temperature readings, are inaccurate. It's reading very high. It was reading like what, 50 or something like that.
In the BIOS, it was reading 60 degrees centigrade on idle.
That was with the stock cooler that it came with. We took that off, put this Thermaltake on there, and when we booted it up and sitting in the BIOS, it was reading about 36, 37 Celsius. So we're kind of wondering if it's just not sending the thermal information right, the temperature readings properly, because we read in some forums on AMD's community forums that it was some weird quirks, I think, with some of the main boards, and also software wise, and because we were using hardware monitor, and we can show you that right now. That like right now it's saying like
around 50 degrees centigrade. It's hovering between around 46 to 56 degrees centigrade.
Which I'm not going to complain because it's down either way, and we do know that we use pretty decent thermal paste, Arctic Silver, good stuff, and we use this very obnoxious 140 millimeter fan heatsink combo. I mean, it barely clears the case. I mean, look at that. I mean, it barely clears it. So a little more background on this computer. It's a Cougar Cougar solution. So it was version 1 of this case. There was 2 versions. Actually got this at from Tiger Direct before they closed the area store here in Northern Illinois. It was kind of the warehouse. I got it on closeout for like $5, and it's a pretty decent case for $5. The main board, I want to get into that. It is a Gigabyte F2A68HM-H FM2 Plus. Pretty basic micro ATX board. Got that on Amazon for $49.99. Newegg had the same price. Did a lot of cross-checking before buying this. However, got a couple good deals from Newegg when we bought this. I think I ended up getting the A10-7860K, 7860K for I think $82. Let's see, the solid state got that for $89, and that is a Samsung 250 gig Evo. It's not the Pro. I have the Pro in my i5 system, and it's a great hard drive, but the Samsung 850 Evo, it's a pretty decent solid state drive, and actually I can even show you some numbers real quick on that. This is Samsung's Magician program, and I mean that's some of the numbers we were getting. 532 read, 499 write, and we got this for $89, and it's a 256 gig or 250 gig, I believe. So, decent hard drive or solid state drive for the price. Can't complain. Also, had this power supply for a while on an older build, but I ended up taking it out and saving it when I kind of just piece parted out that build. But it's a Corsair CX500 power supply. Else to add, we had a copy of Windows 7 Home Premium 64 laying around with the keys, so we threw that on here. Not going with
deactivated.
Yeah. Oh, and we also have a Wi-Fi card, which I just got a USB. Anyways, Joe, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, so notable concerns, the A10-7860K, although be it's only a 65 watt TDP, and even though we feel like the main board is, the BIOS is possibly reporting incorrect temperatures, the stock heatsink is still very concerning. It is kind of a newer gen, but it's not the newer gen Wraith cooler. It does have some cheapy copper heat pipes in there, and then a thin aluminum plate that it looks like it barely makes contact with underneath there. The initial thermal paste was the white. It was really white, really cheap thermal paste, most likely a ceramic base. And when we even on stock settings, we had everything set to stock in the BIOS. We ran Prime 95. Hardware monitor showed that in under 30 seconds, shooting up to 80 degrees centigrade. Now, needless to say, that's very concerning. So we shut it down right away. But then it felt really cold to touch. So we tried actually using some of Cooler Master's thermal paste, the stuff in the gray tube instead. Now, we did run it. It did shoot up just about as quick. However, the heat pipes did feel warm for once. Now, we wouldn't recommend ever using a stock heatsink again. We figured a 65 watt TDP, it's worth a chance. See what happens for a cheap heatsink. But right now, as it sits, we wanted to run Prime 95 just to emulate, anything weird or funky a user might do to throttle the CPU. In under 30 seconds, shooting up to 80 degrees centigrade is ridiculous. So you can only imagine somebody's watching a 2-hour movie, and they might have some kind of weird, funky other programs running in the background. Who knows what? That could possibly, over the course of an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, depending on what kind of movie you're watching and whatever's running in the background, could shoot it up potentially up to 80 degrees anyways. So that would have been a huge issue. However, this Thermaltake is really great. Seems to be doing great. It was staying well below 70 degrees centigrade after about 20 minutes or so of Prime 95. And that's even overclocked to 4 gigahertz, which is the turbo frequency, but just automatically 4 gigahertz. Cool and quiet turned off, obviously. C6 state turned off. So right now we're really happy with it, and it's very similar design to a Hyper 212 Plus in the fact that it's a direct heat pipe design.
Yeah, Yeah, it's running a lot cooler, even to the touch right now. I mean, it barely feels a little, just maybe a tick over room temperature on the heat pipes. So it's running really cool. I guess regardless of what the bias is, but we can go into the bias and we can show you some things going on in there. Overall, this was, aimed at a budget build. I bought a few of the. Oh, there I got to talking and we missed it, but we'll go back in there in a second. But anyways, this was a budget build. I mean, even though it cost almost $500 to build,
At least they can see the boot time. It's still very
Yeah.
quick, decent boot time for a budget system. You'll never really see this in an office. It's rare. Anybody working in, say, in a call center environment, they know that. They're wishing and dreaming they had boot times that responsive, that quick. Compared to, like, say, an i3, seems to be like the normal thing that they're throwing in there.
Missed the bias.
That's
This
the
is
other
a really quick bias. I mean,
Really
boot
quick
the
boot.
boot screen is really quick. So let's.
Give it
Why don't you try
give it a second.
toggling? You're usually quicker than I am at toggling that thing on, because I don't know how many times I missed the.
Oh, yeah.
It's quick. I wish like it was like some of the older biases that you could time it out. Like, I want it to sit there for
There we go.
there. So this is the meat and potatoes of what we got going on here, and so we got it. What we set it at. Well, it's running at just about 5.5 megs under 4 gigahertz. So I'm not going to complain. Full 16 gigs. It's a 2x8 kit. And it's saying 36 Celsius right here on the CPU temperature. Sorry. All right. And let's see here. Some other things that you might want to see. We'll just go down. It's got the latest BIOS in there. All right. We'll go back to here and let you. All right. So we got it set here. CPU frequency 4 gigahertz. Turned off. Oh, by the way, XMP is enabled. AMP is off. That's AMD's memory profile. Running 1867. And so we're going to go in here. All right. And this is kind of the settings we got it set at. Starting from the top, got it set at 40 for 4 gigahertz. Core performance boost disabled, turbo boost disabled. Cool and quiet off. And here's an interesting thing: is what you can do is, so we have it set at the 65 watt TDP. That's what the processor was rated at that we bought it. But you can turn it down to 45 or just turn this off. I guess.
Be running somewhere around 100 watts disabled.
Which is really weird. But is that what you saw?
Well, it's not exactly what I saw. I'm just going off of guess. I believe it is like a A10-7860K I have with 100 watt TDP. So I do have another A10 APU and a mini ITX build. That could be for another story another time. It's still another Gigabyte board with way more features than this one, but the board was double the price. So you really can't complain about this main board. It was only about $50. It's a rock solid main board, and interestingly enough, it actually contains lead, which is a good thing for main boards, ironically, and actually probably better for e-waste. I know that people are complaining about hazardous substances, but lead is one of the few things that is proven to slow down an issue called tin spurring, in which case crystal-like structures grow off of the traces and start shorting everything out prematurely.
Okay, so there's channel A. There's some of the latencies you can take a look at. Come on. And then here's 2, should be the same, obviously. And 9, 10, 9, 28. Let's see here.
Over and above all, this is really good APU actually. You can even do some mild gaming on here. Anything around from the early 2000 periods, you can put everything on high or ultra. Anything more current, you're looking at lower to medium settings, but for the most part, should be playable, so you can't complain.
We may do a follow-up video, maybe towards the end of the month, and we may maybe do some a little more bench testing with this system. Maybe see how it is performing, how it's held up, and we'll go from there. And basically just kind of talk about it, and maybe it gives you a couple ideas. Maybe you're not going to do exactly what we did, but it might kind of lead you in the direction maybe you were thinking about going as far as a decent budget build goes. And who's to say later on, you want to throw in a dedicated GPU or whatever if you're going to do a little more, hardcore gaming. Not hardcore, but some moderate gaming, I would say, for like casual gaming. So.
Well, however, if you are thinking about doing if you actually want to actually do any real gaming on an FM2 Plus platform, you're more than likely better off having an Athlon 2 X4 series versus any of the APUs. The APUs are really great, but unfortunately, they do to a point start to bottleneck discrete graphics cards, aftermarket graphics cards. They do tend to bottleneck those graphics cards. There is a thing called a dual graphics mode with these, where it'll actually share performance with a dedicated graphics card in there, and kind of do kind of a pseudo crossfire, if you will. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. As far as I've seen, any of the research I've done, it does help in certain games in certain situations, but really usually not that much anything to write home about, and then you're usually stuck with a graphics card like an HD 5450. But for general everyday use, really great APU, really great processor. It's got graphics built into there. Amazing stock graphics. Nothing to really write home about if you're wanting to do any real extreme gaming. But for dedicated graphics, it's very amazing.
Yeah, we got the, and if I can find it, we actually turned up the graphics buffer to 2 gigabytes, and I cannot find where that was, actually. I'm sorry. Oh, here it is. GFX configuration. Integrated graphics. If this thing will focus. Yeah, there you go. And you can set the UMA frame buffer size. And you can set it to either auto. We just set it all the way up to 2 gigabytes. So that's what's going to take. It's going to take that right off the top of your RAM. So you got to keep that in mind when you're selecting RAM size. And then we just did IGD and then just force. And it's right there under peripherals when you're in your BIOS of that particular main board. So with that, I don't think we have pretty much more to add right now. We'll continue this discussion in the comments, and we'll throw up some stills for you too of the build, and that's pretty much all I got for now. So.
In closing, though, I just want to let you know if you do use an APU, always go for higher frequency RAM, because the RAM that you're using for your graphics is basically your system RAM, and everybody has been saying the faster your clock speeds, the better. 1866 seems to be a really decent zone. Trying to find 2133 and a 1.5 volt flavor is really hard to find. AMD, AM3, AM3 Plus, FM2 Plus, those platforms by AMD tend to be more biased towards 1.5 volt RAM, and I definitely recommend G.SKILL. They have a lifetime warranty with them. Even if, say, you were to overclock, so long as you don't have any scorching on the pins, or you don't somehow, I don't even know how you do this with RAM, but bend the pins, that would also void the warranty. I'm not sure how you do that. But regardless, thank you very much for being here with us for this exclusive build and just kind of seeing the overview. And please remember, invite anyone you can, anybody who actually wants to just kind of show off their system, want to participate, or is interested in learning anything. if they're just first getting into the hobby of computer building.
With that, I'll say thanks for watching as well. Yeah, and we'll be back maybe with a follow-up video on this build, and maybe some like 3D Mark testing and some other things ahead. So thanks for watching, and catch you later.